The frontier colony of Redwater always carried the smell of dust and iron. It was a place where people spoke in whispers once the twin suns dropped behind the cliffs. Every settlement had its shadows, and Redwater's deepest shadow was a name that refused to fade. A name that mothers used to warn their children. A name that men pretended did not frighten them. Rex Varon. For 3 long years, the outlaw moved like a ghost across the open plains. Every bounty hunter swore they saw him. Every trader claimed he robbed them. Every officer promised his capture was only days away. Yet the man never left a trail and never stayed long enough for anyone to understand what he truly wanted. Stories grew around him like wild vines. Some said he carried a weapon from the old wars. Some said he could outrun the patrol bikes with nothing but his boots and his stubborn will. Others claimed he fought with a calm that made men shake long after the fight ended. Rex Varon was danger and mystery placed inside one single human. Myra Hawley knew these stories well. She had heard them since childhood when she used to sit on the steps of the sheriff's office, swinging her small legs and pretending to read the wanted posters that hung on the wall. Her father always told her that fear was nothing but a story told too many times. Yet the moment she grew older, she realized Rex Varon was not only a story. He was movement. He was silence. He was a man who stood against laws without breaking himself in the process. Now, Myra was no longer a child. She was the sharpest tracker in Redwater. The one who noticed the smallest detail. The one who felt danger before others sensed the first shift in the wind. Her father trusted her with investigations that required precision and calm thought. Despite her skills, one thing remained untouched. The outlaw remained untouched. The outlaw remained free. That morning the office felt heavier than usual. The sky outside burned with a strange orange glow that came after a sandstorm. Dust rolled across the street as if the world wanted to hide something beneath its surface. Myra walked inside carrying a datapad filled with routine reports. She expected nothing unusual. She expected another quiet day. Then she saw her father, standing completely still beside the holoboard. His face carried the look he only wore when something serious awaited them. He turned toward her without speaking and tapped the screen. A new sight appeared. A map, the river, the forest beyond the cliffs. A single blinking signal. Myra stared at the blinking light. At first she thought it was a system error. The location was wrong. Rex Varon never returned to the same region. Once he had been seen there. It was the reason he escaped every attempt to catch him. But the signal refused to disappear. It pulsed with a steady rhythm. Her father spoke at last. His voice was low yet firm. Reports from the night watchers said a lone rider was seen moving toward the river. The description matched the outlaw. The watchers refused to follow because the energy readings around him were unstable. Myra felt a chill spread through her. Unstable readings were not a normal thing for outlaw sightings. Something else was moving in that region. Something she could not name yet. She studied the map closer. If the signal was real, then Rex Varon was not hiding anymore. He was returning. For what purpose? Why choose a place as open as the riverbank? Why reveal himself after years of silence? Every question pressed against her mind like a weight that refused to lift. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. He told her they would send a patrol group later in the day, but for now they needed more information. Myra nodded, yet her thoughts were already running ahead of his words. She knew the patrol groups would be slow. They would move with caution and protocol. By the time they reached the river, the outlaw would be long gone. Something inside her sensed urgency, the kind of urgency that felt like the world holding its breath before an unexpected turn. Myra stepped outside the office. The air was warm and dry. The wind carried the faint sound of the river in the distance. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she made her choice. If Rex Varon had returned, then she had to face him. Not as the sheriff's daughter, not as a hunter of criminals, but as someone seeking truth in a world where truth was becoming harder to find. She walked toward the stables with firm steps. The signal on the map still blinked in her mind like a call she could not refuse. The outlaw was near the river. And for the first time, Mira felt that this meeting was not meant to be avoided. It was meant to change everything. The wanted name was no longer a distant whisper. It was waiting for her. Myra Hawley moved through the stable with quiet steps. The early morning light painted long shadows across the wooden floor. Her father believed she was heading to the market to check supply routes. The truth was different. She had no intention of wasting time on reports. A signal near the river meant action. And Mira was not someone who waited for permission when answers were already calling her name. She approached her speeder bike. Dust rested across the metal surface, yet the machine waited with silent loyalty. Mira brushed the dust away with her glove. Her mind replayed the blinking signal again and again. If Rex Veron truly returned to the river, then something had shifted in the order of the frontier. Outlaws did not risk familiar ground unless a deeper reason forced them. She could not ignore that feeling. The twin suns were just beginning to rise. Soft orange light spread across the horizon. It made the cliffs glow like ancient guardians watching over the land. Mira mounted the bike and powered the engine. The hum filled the stable with a steady rhythm. She breathed in once, then kicked the bike forward. The streets of Redwater were nearly empty. A few traders pulled open their stalls. 2 miners argued over wages. Older folk sat outside the cantina drinking early brew. Yet every person held the same expression. They all feared the shadows that grew beyond the river. They feared the name that returned again and again in their conversations. Rex Veron. Myra drove past the sheriff's office. Her father stepped outside with a cup in his hand. He did not see her riding away. She felt guilt push against her ribs, yet she reminded herself that truth mattered more than comfort. If she was right, then the colony was facing a danger far greater than an outlaw on a wanted poster. The land shifted from flat roads to wild soil. Tall red grass brushed the sides of her bike. The wind carried the smell of water. The river was close. She slowed down and scanned the area. Her visor displayed readings of heat signatures and movement. Nothing seemed unusual at first, yet something about the silence felt wrong. The forest should have been alive with sound. Today, it felt like the world was holding its breath. Mira dismounted the bike and walked forward. Her boots pressed into the soft earth. She kept one hand on her sidearm. The river shimmered through the trees. Its surface reflected the morning light like molten metal. The air around the water carried a strange charge, not dangerous but unsettling. Mira felt the hair on her arms stand up. She crouched near a cluster of rocks and checked her scanner. The blinking signal still pulsed. It came from deeper inside the forest. She followed the direction with careful steps. Every sense remained alert. Her father always said a tracker should trust more than her eyes. Mira understood his lesson now. She felt watched. Not by a human presence. Something else. She moved between shadows. Birds that normally filled the trees were missing. Even the insects remained quiet. The deeper she walked, the stronger the strange energy became. It hummed beneath her boots as if the river itself was breathing. Suddenly the scanner flickered and displayed an unknown interference. Mira stared at the lines of distortion. This type of signature did not belong to human tech. She knew that well. Only alien structures created patterns like these. Her heartbeat grew louder. She scanned again. The interference spread across the display. The signal of Rex Veron was barely visible behind the distortion. Something near him was affecting the readings, something not from REDUA-TER. Myra tightened her grip on her weapon and continued. She reached a fallen log and leaned beside it. Ahead of her, the forest opened into a small clearing. The river curved along the right side. Mist drifted. above the water. And in the center of the clearing, she saw marks in the soil. Heavy footsteps. A fight. Movement patterns she could not identify. The ground was torn as if something powerful dragged itself across the earth. She knelt and touched the prints. They were fresh. The air around the marks felt colder. This was not the work of any human. A sharp rustle sounded behind her. She turned instantly and aimed her weapon. Nothing moved. Yet she felt a presence just out of view. Something watched her. Something waited. Her breath slowed. Her senses sharpened. Whatever brought Rex Veron back to this place was no longer a mystery. It was danger, and it was close. Mira held her weapon steady while the forest around her remained strangely still. The quiet did not feel natural. It felt shaped by something unseen, a silence created by fear. She took one slow breath and moved a step forward. Her boots pressed into soft leaves. The air carried a strange metallic scent that did not belong in the forest. She followed it until she reached the edge of the mist that rose from the river. The mist curled around the trees like moving threads of silver. It blurred her view, but she could still sense movement on the far side of the clearing. Something shifted. A shadow detached itself from the trees. Mira raised her weapon higher. Her heartbeat punched against her chest. She prepared for a creature. She prepared for an ambush. She prepared for the worst possibility. Instead she saw a man walk out of the fog. His steps were slow, controlled. He did not try to hide. He did not try to threaten her. He simply appeared as if the forest opened a path just for him. His coat was torn, his boots covered in dust, his hair wind-blown, and his eyes carried the calm of someone who had walked through danger too many times to fear it anymore. Mira knew that face. She had memorized it since childhood. Rex Veron, the most wanted man in the Redwater territories, stood before her without running or fighting. He raised his hand slightly to show he carried no weapon drawn. Mira kept her weapon aimed at his chest. She did not trust the calm in his eyes. Yet something inside her noticed a different truth. He was tired. Not in the way a criminal grows tired. He was tired in the way a survivor grows tired after escaping something that should not exist. Rex spoke first. His voice carried a roughness shaped by dust roads and long nights. He told her not to shoot. He did not shout. He did not beg. He spoke as if he already knew she would listen. Mira stepped back. She demanded to know why he returned to the river. She demanded to know what destroyed the ground behind her. She demanded answers that she believed he owed to her family and the colony. Rex shook his head. His eyes shifted toward the trees behind her. He warned her that she should not stay in the open. He said the forest was moving, not in the wind but in hunger. Mira felt her skin tighten. She turned her head slightly. The shadows between the trees seemed thicker. They flowed like shapes that were not human. Mira asked what he meant. Rex walked closer in a slow, careful motion. He kept his hands visible. He looked at her face as if judging her strength. Then he whispered the words she hoped she misheard. The Zinth were here. Mira felt cold fear climb into her lungs. The Zinth were not creatures from the forest. They were predators from the outer worlds. Hunters that devoured energy and life with equal hunger. If they were truly near the river, then the colony faced a threat greater than anything written in law records. Rex pointed at the ground near the clearing. The marks she found earlier were not made by men. She knew it now. They belonged to something larger and far more dangerous. She lowered her weapon a little, though her mind still fought every instinct. She should arrest him. She should call the patrol. She should drag him back to town. Yet arresting him felt pointless in the face of what waited between the trees. Mist thickened. A faint clicking sound echoed through the forest. A sound that did not belong to any living creature she knew. Mira felt the vibration in her bones. Rex moved closer and told her again to stay near him. The Zinth sensed energy. They followed movement. They hunted without mercy. Mira wanted to deny his words. She wanted to stay strong. Yet the shadows behind them shifted again. Something crawled along the tree bark with a speed that made her breath freeze. She aimed her weapon at the noise, but the creature vanished before she pulled the trigger. Rex grabbed her arm gently. He pointed toward a narrow canyon path to their left. It led away from the river. He whispered that it was their only chance. The Zinth were gathering. The forest was already under their range. Mira hesitated. She should not trust an outlaw. She should not follow him. She should not walk into danger beside a man her father hunted for years. Yet the cold logic in her mind spoke clearly. He knew the threat. He survived it. He warned her before attacking her. That alone meant something. She nodded once. Rex moved first. Mira followed close behind. The shadows crawled closer. The clicking grew louder. The mist swirled like living smoke. For the first time in her life, Myra Hawley walked beside the outlaw she swore to catch. Not as an officer. Not as an enemy, but as someone running for survival. And the forest followed. Rex moved through the canyon path with fast, steady steps. Mira followed close behind while trying to keep her breathing quiet. The walls of the canyon rose high on both sides. Their surfaces were shaped by wind and time until they looked like giant ribs of some ancient creature. The shadows between the stone ridges stretched long and dark. Each shadow held the same question. How long until the Zinth found them again? The clicking sounds faded for a moment, yet Mira knew that silence did not mean safety. The Zinth hunted in waves. They gathered. They spread. They stopped without warning. Her pulse thumped hard in her throat. She kept her weapon ready while her eyes scanned every corner of the canyon. Rex slowed down and pointed to a narrow crack in the stone. They slipped inside. The space was tight, yet deep enough to hide them from immediate sight. Mira leaned against the cool rock and tried to steady her thoughts. The mist from the forest no longer followed them, yet the air inside the canyon carried a different scent. Dry dust mixed with a faint electric charge. She felt it dance across her fingertips. Rex studied the entrance of their hiding spot. His posture remained tense, yet focused. Mira noticed the small details now, the way he checked the wind flow, the way he listened to the echo of distant footsteps, the way he kept his body angled between her and danger. This was not the behavior of a criminal who cared only for himself. This was the behavior of a man who had fought the Zinth before and survived. Mira asked him how he knew the creatures were here. Rex answered without turning his head. He said he discovered strange energy grids near the cliffs a week ago. They looked abandoned, yet something inside them pulsed with life. When he tried to get closer, he heard the same clicking sound they both heard earlier. He knew the truth then. The Zinth were building nests. Mira felt dreadnought inside her stomach. Nests meant population. Population meant spread. Spread meant a threat that could wipe out entire settlements. She wondered how the colony had not noticed any signs. Rex explained that the Zinth hid their nests using mimic patterns. They blended into the environment until even scanners failed to detect them. Mira stared at him. He spoke with clarity and experience. She began to understand why her father never caught him. Rex Veron did not survive by luck. He survived with knowledge. Knowledge earned through battles the colony never saw. A sudden vibration shook the ground. Dust drifted from the cracks in the canyon walls. Mira froze. The vibration returned stronger. Then a long screech echoed across the stones. The sound dragged itself into her bones. She felt her body stiffen with instinctive fear. Rex pulled her deeper into the shadowed space. The screeching grew louder. Then it stopped. Mira listened for movement. Nothing. Pure emptiness. She looked at Rex. He shook his head. He whispered that this was a known tactic. The Zinth called to each other with the screech, then dropped into absolute stillness. They waited for targets to panic and step into open ground. Mira held her breath. She fought the urge to move. She felt like prey. The canyon felt like a giant trap shaped by nature, yet used by something far more intelligent than any predator from Redwater. Minutes passed. The silence wrapped around them like a heavy blanket. Mira felt sweat slide down her back. Rex placed a finger to his lips. His eyes scanned the entrance again. Then he pointed upward. Mira followed his gaze. A shadow slid across the top edge of the canyon, long, thin, moving with unnatural flexibility. It clung to the rock like a living ribbon. Its limbs shifted in ways that broke the rules of normal movement. The shape paused above their hiding spot. Mira held her breath until her lungs burned. The creature moved on. Rex waited a little longer, then nodded. They stepped out of the crack and walked deeper into the canyon. The air felt colder now. The stone walls narrowed until only one person could walk through at a time. Mira kept her eyes high. She felt watched from above. Rex suddenly stopped. Mira almost collided with him. He lifted his hand and pointed ahead. The canyon widened again and revealed something strange resting on the ground. A metallic structure shaped like a half-formed cocoon. Its surface glowed with dull blue lines. The lines pulsed like veins carrying energy. Mira approached with caution. The structure hummed softly. It looked like a container, yet not built by human hands. Rex explained that this was his synth growth pod. If activated, it could release scouts or drones. Mira felt her heart tighten. Their presence so close to Redwater meant the colony was already inside the threat zone. Before she could speak, the pod twitched. A hairline crack formed across its surface. Light pushed through the crack. Rex grabbed her wrist and pulled her back. Mira heard the clicking grow loud again. Many clicks. Too many. The synth had found them. The pod split open, and the unseen threat became real. The pod split open with a sharp hiss. Light burst from the crack and spilled across the canyon floor. Mira shielded her eyes. Rex pulled her behind a jagged boulder just as a thin dark shape crawled out of the glowing shell. The creature unfolded itself in a slow, dreadful motion. Its limbs bent in angles that felt wrong to the human eye. Its head tilted as if tasting the air for life. The clicking sound returned stronger than before. It echoed across the rocks like the rhythm of a predator awakening. Mira gripped her weapon. Her breath trembled, yet her hands remained steady. Rex leaned closer and whispered that the creature was only a scout. A scout meant more were coming. They needed to move before the swarm reached them. Mira nodded. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Rex led her through a narrow gap between two tall stones. The canyon opened again and allowed a faint beam of sunlight to touch the ground. The warmth of the light felt like a small promise that they were not trapped yet. They climbed higher along the slope until the river came back into view. The water shimmered with morning light. Mist drifted in soft waves. The scene looked peaceful, yet Mira knew peace was an illusion created by distance. Danger followed them like a shadow that refused to break. They reached a flat ridge above the river. Rex signaled her to rest. Mira sat on a rock and tried to calm her breathing. She watched the water below while her thoughts ran in every direction. She wanted answers. She wanted understanding. She needed to know why this danger was here and why Rex. Varan seemed to know everything before anyone else. Rex walked toward her and handed her a small metal chip. Its surface was scratched yet intact. Mira studied it without speaking. It was a data chip used by colony officers. How did an outlaw carry something like this? Rex explained that the chip held records stolen from the governor's storage room. Records that exposed a truth far darker than any crime he was accused of. Mira looked at him with disbelief. Her father trusted the governor. The colony trusted the governor. Yet the certainty in Rex's voice made her heart tighten. Rex told her that months ago, he discovered strange shipments arriving at night. The crates contained tech from unknown origins. He followed the shipments and found the governor meeting figures who did not move like humans. For days Rex gathered proof. Then he discovered the final truth. The governor had made a secret agreement with the Synth. He allowed them to build nests in exchange for power and control. The colony was offered as a silent feeding ground. A breeding place, a resource. Mira felt the world tilt around her. Her breath grew shallow. She stared at the chip in her hand. The metal felt cold, too cold. She asked Rex why he did not come forward earlier. His answer hit her harder than the truth. He said no one would believe a man with a bounty on his head. And soon after he found the proof, the governor placed his name on the wanted list with new charges. He became the villain needed to hide a darker plan. Mira closed her eyes. Her father spent years hunting Rex, believing he was protecting the colony. She knew this revelation would tear him apart, yet the colony needed the truth. The Synth threat was no longer a distant rumor. It was real. The creature that crawled out of the pod was only the beginning. Rex knelt beside her, his voice softened. He told her that she had a choice now. She could take the chip and return to Redwater. She could tell her father everything. She could expose the governor. But doing so meant she would also become a target. The Synth would not allow their plan to break. The governor would use every tool of power to silence the truth. Mira opened her eyes and looked at the river. The water moved with slow, steady strength. It reminded her of her childhood. She used to believe the river protected the colony. Now, she understood that nothing protected them, not the river, not the walls, not the law. What protected them were people who refused to stay silent. Rex stood and watched the forest behind them. The clicking noise rose again, closer. Many voices merged into one dreadful chorus. The swarm had awakened. The danger was moving toward the canyon. Toward them. Mira rose to her feet. Her eyes no longer carried fear. They carried purpose. She gripped the data chip tight. She told Rex she would not run. She would not hide. She wanted the truth, and she wanted justice. Not the justice written by corrupt leaders. The justice shaped by humanity. The justice shaped by courage. Rex studied her for a moment. A strange emotion softened his expression. Respect. Maybe even trust. He nodded and stepped beside her. Together, they watched the shadows shift between the trees. The truth was out now, and the river would no longer be silent. The sun dipped behind the cliffs as Mira and Rex moved along the ridge. The shadows stretched long across the ground. The river below glowed with faint silver light, as if reflecting a world that lived beneath the surface. A cool wind drifted through the canyon and brushed against their faces. The clicking of the distant Synth faded for a moment. Yet Mira knew the silence held danger. It was only a brief pause in a growing storm. They reached a sheltered hollow between two tall rock formations. The space was small yet safe enough for a short rest. Mira sank down on a flat stone. Her body ached with exhaustion. Her mind spun with the truth that now rested in her pocket. The data chip felt heavier than it should. It carried the weight of the colony, the weight of betrayal, the weight of survival. Rex sat across from her. His posture relaxed yet alert. He watched the forest the same way a soldier watches a battlefield. His eyes moved with sharp attention. His breath remained steady. Mira studied him quietly. She never imagined she would sit beside the most wanted outlaw and feel something other than suspicion. Yet now she saw strength shaped by struggle. She saw a man who carried danger, but also carried purpose. A man who had been hunted not for his crimes, but for the truth he tried to protect. The wind shifted. Mira wrapped her arms around herself. Rex removed his coat and placed it beside her without speaking. She hesitated but accepted it. Warmth spread across her shoulders. The gesture surprised her more than the danger they faced. She whispered a soft thank you. Rex nodded in a quiet way that showed he was not used to gratitude. For a moment the Payung world softened. No clicking, no rushing footsteps, no fear. Only the sound of water flowing through the canyon. Mira felt her heartbeat begin to settle. She looked at Rex. She wanted answers. Not about the governor. Not about the Zinth. She wanted answers about him. She asked how many years he spent hiding. How many nights he slept under open skies while the colony called him a criminal. How many times he tried to warn people before realizing no one would listen. Rex leaned back against the rock wall. His expression changed. The hardness faded. Little. He spoke in a low, calm tone. He told her that he never wanted to be an outlaw. He once served as a scout for the colony. He once believed in leadership. He once believed in justice. But when he uncovered the first signs of the Zinth infiltration, everything crumbled. The governor framed him. Officers he trusted turned against him. He became a hunted man because he refused to stay silent. Myra felt the ache in his words. She saw the truth in his eyes. He was not running from law. He was running from corruption, from betrayal, from danger that walked under human skin. She asked him why he returned to the river. Rex paused. His gaze moved toward the water. The answer came slowly. He returned because he knew the Zinth had shifted their nests. He sensed the danger moving closer to Redwater. He also knew Mayra often patrolled this region. He feared the creatures would catch her before the colony understood the threat. His voice grew softer. He admitted that he could not let that happen. Mira felt warmth rise in her chest. She looked away to steady her emotions. She was taught to be strong. She was taught to trust logic more than feeling. Yet right now logic whispered something she had not accepted before. Rex Veron risked his life to protect her. Not because she was the sheriff's daughter. Not because she was a skilled tracker. But because she mattered to him in a way he did not fully understand. The wind quieted. A faint glow drifted across the river as the moons rose. Mira turned toward Rex and asked a question she never imagined speaking. Did he fear anything? Rex gave her a rare, honest smile, a small one. A tired one, yet real. He told her that he feared many things. He feared the Zinth rise. He feared the colony falling. And most of all, he feared failing to protect something he cared about. His eyes met hers. The meaning was clear. Mira felt her heart open with a slow, gentle ache. She reached out and touched his hand. The moment was soft, human, brave. Something inside her shifted. Something she could not hide anymore. She whispered that she trusted him. Not the outlaw. Not the legend. Him. Rex's breath caught. His hand closed around hers. The canyon seemed to hold its breath with them. In that quiet space between danger and dawn, their walls dropped. Their fears faded. Their hearts spoke with a strength no words could match. But the moment broke as the clicking returned. Louder, closer, joined the growing chorus. The Zinth had found their trail once again. Mira and Rex rose together. Their fingers separated, yet the bond remained strong. Stronger than fear. Stronger than law. Stronger than the shadows gathering across the canyon. Their hearts were unshielded now, and the night was about to test them. The clicking rose in waves across the canyon walls. Each sound carried sharp hunger. Each echo warned that the Zinth were closing in. Mira and Rex stood together while the moonlight drew pale lines across the rocky ground. Their quiet moment ended. Now only survival remained. Yet something inside them was stronger than fear. Something shaped by trust. Something shaped by truth. Rex stepped forward and scanned the canyon entrance. Shadows twisted along the far stones. They moved in. Thin lines that spiraled like dark vines. The Zinth were spreading through every path. Mira tightened her grip on her weapon. Her heart beat with steady strength. She was not the same woman who left Redwater that morning. She was not the same woman who only knew Rex Varan from stories. She now carried truth. And truth demanded action. Rex turned toward her. His voice carried urgency. They needed to reach the ridge above the river. From there they could see the valley and decide their next move. Myra nodded. They began to climb the slope while stones slid beneath their boots. The clicking grew louder behind them. Something crawled quickly across the wall to their right. Myra fired a shot. The blast lit the canyon with bright light. The creature shrieked, then retreated into the darkness. Rex pulled her forward. They reached a narrow ledge that curved toward open ground. The river glowed below them in a long silver line. The forest on the far side shifted with unnatural motion. Branches bent without wind. Leaves flowed like living skin. Myra felt a chill in her spine. Rex pointed toward a tall ridge across the river. If they crossed the water, they could reach the old lookout tower. From there, Myra could send a broadcast to the colony with the truth inside the data chip. It would expose the governor. It would warn the people. It would break the shadow growing over Redwater. But reaching the tower meant crossing open land. The Synth hunted open spaces with ease. The risk was high. Myra knew that. Yet doing nothing felt worse. She looked at Rex. He waited for her choice. Not as an outlaw, not as a fugitive. As someone ready to follow her into danger. Myra felt the decision settle in her heart. She told him they were going to the tower. They were going to reveal everything. They were going to fight for their colony. Not with lies, not with silence, but with truth. Rex nodded once. A warrior's promise. They moved down the ridge. The ground shook beneath them as the Synth climbed across the canyon. Long limbs scraped the stone. More clicking poured through the air. Rex fired toward the shadows, and Myra followed. Their shots created bursts of light that flashed across the stones. The creatures recoiled but continued to gather. Myra felt the air shift behind her. She turned and fired again. The creature dropped from the rocks with a heavy thud. Rex grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the riverbank. They splashed into the cold water. The current pushed against them with strong force. Myra stumbled, but Rex held her steady. They moved across the river step by step. The moonlight reflected off the surface with sharp brightness. Each ripple looked like a warning. They reached the other side and ran toward the ridge. The ground rose steeply. The old lookout tower appeared at the top like a broken tooth against the sky. Myra felt hope spark inside her. They were close. Clicking returned from behind them. Faster. Stronger. The Synth were crossing the river. Myra turned and fired another shot to slow them. Rex pushed her ahead. They climbed the last stretch. The tower stood silent under the pale light. Its metal frame bent from years of storms. The antenna still reached upward like a stubborn survivor. Myra rushed inside and accessed the old panel. The wires were dusty, yet the core still carried power. She pulled out the data chip and inserted it into the slot. The screen flickered. The colony network appeared. She typed the message with fast, steady hands. A warning. The truth. The proof. Rex blocked the doorway and fired at approaching shadows. Sparks flew from his weapon. Myra heard the clicking shift into a deep roar. The creatures were climbing the tower. Time was ending. The message loaded. Myra pressed transmit. A soft tone echoed through the tower. The broadcast was sent. The colony now knew. Rex turned toward her, his breath heavy, his eyes steady. He told her they did it. But his voice carried another truth. The Synth were already inside the structure. Myra heard the metal frame creak under the weight of their bodies. She felt the tower shake. She stepped beside Rex, her weapon ready. Their shoulders touched, their eyes met. Whatever happened next, they would face it together, not as hunter and outlaw. Not as enemies. But as Myra Hale and Rex Varan, two humans fighting for their world. The tower trembled again. The shadows swarmed upward. The night filled with danger and courage. Myra whispered one final truth into the wind. Humanity stands. And humanity fights. The choice was made, and their future waited. Beyond the darkness,